Hi, welcome once again to our YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing to our channel, we really appreciate it. Today we quickly want to look at a particular topic that is particular to all of us, something that happens in our body every day, day in, day out, it occurs in our body, and so we want to look at the processes that are taking part in digestion today. So in the course of talking about digestion, we'll be looking at all of the series of organs that partake in digestion. We take all of the organs stepwise, we discuss what happens in each of the organs as we move along till the food is totally digested. So we're talking about different types of food samples as we make mention of or talk about this topic. We're talking about different food samples, the organs that carry out certain processes in this process of digestion, and then the types of enzymes or enzymatic reactions that partake in every step as it goes down in the process of digestion. So I will be starting with listing all of the organs that partake in the process of digestion. So when we talk about the organs, we will be starting, like I said, we're talking about digestion. So let me quickly make mention of digestion. What is digestion? Digestion simply is talking about the breakdown of food into smaller particles until the absorption of nutrients or until nutrient is being derived. Again, digestion is the breakdown of food samples, large food samples or complex food samples as we eat them, the classes of food that we have like carbohydrates, protein, fat and oil, vitamins, minerals, salt, water, roughages, all of these food classes, they are broken down to give us or to give our body nutrients. The nutrient is what our body is in need of, and that is why there is a need for digestion to take place every time we eat our food. So basically, we talk about digestion as the breakdown of complex food samples into smaller particles until our body is able to generate nutrients from them. Now, so that is just digestion. So let me quickly put down what I have just talked about. Digestion. I said it is the breakdown of food samples to generate nutrients. Basically, that is what digestion is about. So having talked about that, we now want to understand or want to list out the organs that partake in digestion, and then we start to talk about all the processes that take part in them, one after the other. So we're starting with the mouth. The organs of the digestive system. So the first one is the mouth. And number 2, we have the pharynx. Number 3, we have the oesophagus. Number 4, we have the stomach. Number 5, we have the small intestine, and this is divided into 3. We have the first one to be the duodenum. The second one is, I'm talking about the small intestine now, it is divided into 3 parts. We have the duodenum, we have the jejunum. And lastly, we have the ileum. The ileum is the third part of the small intestine, and after that we have the 6th part, which is the large intestine, and then we have the 7th, which is the rectum, and then the 8th, which is the anus. Now, I want us to understand here that digestion actually ends here. Digestion actually ends in the ileum, in the small intestine. It doesn't take place in the large intestine. But when we talk about digestion, we always talk about this inclusive of these 3 because they also carry out some processes, not actually digestive processes, but they actually do some things that we can liken into the digestion of food materials. So let us quickly see what happens in each of these processes. I'll be talking about what happens in these organs one after the other, and so I'll expect us to follow stepwise. Now, to those that have not subscribed to our channel, please, I want to assure you that subscribing to our channel is very, very good because it helps to keep you informed. It keeps us informed of science and scientific happenings around the world. Try as much as possible to subscribe to our channel, like our content, share them, and please don't forget to comment. If you have any question, we would like to get them from you. Thank you very much. Now, looking at what we have talked about, I said we are starting with the mouth. So, what digestive process happens in the mouth? That is where we are going to now. In the mouth, we have majorly three things happening in the mouth. The first one is called mastication. Mastication is actually the process of chewing. It is actually the process by which food is being broken down into smaller particles, smaller pieces, before it is being swallowed. So that is the first thing that happens in the mouth. We are talking about digestion, and I said it is the breakdown. You can see it. The word there, break down. It is actually what's very important. Simply what's putting the food sample into smaller bits. So it is in the mouth that the first phase of breakdown occurs. So I said that in the mouth we have what is called mastication or chewing. That is breakdown of food into smaller bits or particles. That is the first thing that happens in the mouth. Now, after that has been done, we have the second thing, which is actually the action of saliva. Action of saliva. Now, what does the saliva do? The saliva is alkaline in nature. Yes, it is an alkaline substance. It has an alkaline pH. So it is alkaline in substance. It is a liquid substance that is found in the mouth. It is secreted from the salivary gland, and its function is majorly to moisten the food in the mouth to aid easier swallowing. That is basically what the saliva does. So whenever we put in our mouth any type of food, be it carbohydrate or protein, fat and oil, mineral salt or whatever that we put in our mouth, after chewing has been done or mastication has been done on that food sample, then the action of saliva comes in, and the sole purpose of saliva being added to the food is to make the food moisty, to make it easier for the food to pass through the esophagus. So that is the second thing that happens in the mouth, and like I said, it is alkaline in nature. The saliva is alkaline in nature. And then the third thing that happens in the mouth is actually from the saliva. Now, what is this? It is that in the saliva, we have an active enzyme called Ptyalin. An active enzyme called Ptyalin. Action of Ptyalin. Ptyalin is found in the saliva. Now, the Ptyalin is alkaline in nature, and its function is to convert or to act on carbohydrates. What type of carbohydrates? It acts specifically on cooked starch. So it converts cooked starch to complex sugar. That is basically what the Ptyalin does. It acts solely on carbohydrates. It does not act on any other type of food aside carbohydrates. So it acts on carbohydrates. So we have an enzymatic reaction that looks like this. We have the reaction looking like this. Cooked starch acted upon by Ptyalin to give us complex sugar. That is the enzymatic reaction. The reaction is what cooked starch being acted upon by Ptyalin to give us complex sugar. So those are the three things that happen in the mouth. And after that is done, then the food goes from the mouth into the next organ which partakes in digestion, and that is the pharynx. the pharynx. So what happens in the pharynx? The pharynx is a gateway between the mouth and the esophagus. The pharynx, like I said again, is a gateway, is a passage between the mouth and the esophagus. It helps to convey the food from the mouth into the esophagus. Now, like I said, the pharynx is a gateway. It is a junction that leads into two tubes. The two tubes there, we have the trachea and the esophagus. Now, at this junction called the pharynx, there is a type of mechanism that is actually controlled by a particular substance called the epiglottis. The epiglottis is a flap that can flip either to cover the esophagus or to cover the trachea. So whenever there is the need for swallowing to take place, the epiglottis is expected to flip and cover the trachea, leaving the esophagus open so that there can be free flow of whatever is coming from the mouth to pass into the esophagus. And when swallowing is not necessary, or when the swallowing is not carried out, the epiglottis covers the esophagus, leaving the trachea open for free flow of air through the nasal cavity into the lungs. Let me try to depict what I have said diagrammatically. Now, let us imagine that we have something that looks like this. Now, this region here is what I have explained to be the pharynx. This place is, okay, let me quickly, this is the trachea, and here we have the esophagus. Here in front we have the trachea, and at the back there we have the esophagus. And this place here where I want to name the pharynx, this place is called the pharynx. At this place here, there is an opening here. You can see that there is an opening there. Now, this particular opening is controlled by something that looks like this. Now, that thing, that substance is what I have labeled, or what I called earlier on. I called it epiglottis. It is called epiglottis. Now, whenever there is the, normally when we are not chewing, when we are not chewing anything, or there is no need for us to swallow anything, the epiglottis covers the esophagus. It covers this place here, so that there can be opening for the trachea, so that the free flow of air, inflow of air and outflow of air can be done or made easy, made possible, because the air comes in through the nasal cavity and it goes through the trachea into the lungs. And then, if there is a need for us to swallow, the epiglottis flips from covering the esophagus, it covers the trachea, like I'm showing us right now. It covers the trachea, leaving this place open so that the food can actually come into the esophagus. When we do not give room for this particular process, the flipping of the epiglottis from covering the esophagus to covering the trachea, and we don't allow that process to completely done, that is what results to choking, where we actually get to sniff out some food samples that was taken into the mouth through the nostrils. So basically that is what happens in the pharynx. It helps to channel the food directly into the esophagus. And then after that, we have the next process which is taking place in the esophagus. So we are going to the esophagus now. So some textbooks call the esophagus throat, and some textbooks call it the gullet. So you can see them used interchangeably, talking about the esophagus, the throat, or the gullet. They are still talking about the same thing. Now, the esophagus or throat or the gullet, like the case might be, is the long, narrow tube that runs directly from underneath the pharynx or from the neck region here down into the abdominal region. It is a long tube. It is muscular in nature, and this muscular nature of the esophagus is what brings about continuous contraction and relaxation of the walls of the esophagus, and that it aids the movement of the food or the flow of the food down the esophagus into the stomach. Now, the continuous flow of this is, okay, let me put it this way. Like I said, the food goes down the stomach in a wavelet manner. It aids the downflow of the food sample into the stomach. Now, the movement of that food down the stomach, because I said it is muscular in nature. It is a muscular organ. Yes, it is muscular in nature. Now, it brings about the continuous contraction and relaxation, brings about the movement of that food sample. And the food sample is taken down into the stomach in a wave-like manner. The food moves down like this. You see the food moving down like this. It moves down in a wavy manner, like you can see. So the wavy movement of the food down the throat or oesophagus is called peristalsis. The wavy movement of the food down the esophagus is what we refer to as peristalsis. That is what that process is called. When you are talking about this, it is very important that you tell us what that process is called. So the movement is what we refer to as the peristaltic movement. And so the food goes down in that manner into the stomach. Now, as the food passes the esophagus and it gets into the stomach, the food gets into the stomach. So what happens in the stomach? In the stomach, we have the food, because the food has been acted upon. The food was originally acted upon by saliva, and I told us that saliva is alkaline in nature. Saliva is alkaline in nature. That makes the food substance that is coming into the stomach alkaline. Now, there are going to be some enzymes that will need to act on the food in the stomach. And so because these enzymes cannot act on the food in that form, there is going to be the need of something converting that food into an acidic medium. And that is where we need the action of the HCl. Now, in the stomach, the food meets a particular medium which is acidic in nature, and this acidic nature is brought about by the action of a particular compound. The stomach has a particular gland called the gastric gland. The gastric gland secretes what we refer to as gastric juice, and the gastric juice has dilute hydrochloric acid in it. This dilute hydrochloric acid has a pH range of 2.5. Now that is pretty acidic, and as such, it acidifies the food that is brought into the stomach, making them into an acidic substance, and then other materials can act on it. So I have talked about this. I said that 1. Gastric gland secretes gastric juice, which has dilute hydrochloric acid. With a pH of 2.5. Now, this acid is the reason why this acid HCl is the reason why the food does not rot. The function is to prevent the action of bacteria. The function of the HCl in that food or in the stomach acting on the food is to prevent the food from rotting. It prevents the action of bacteria on that food sample to delay the process of decay, because the food will actually lie in wait in the stomach for an average of 3 to 4 hours in the stomach. So this is a long time that could have led to decay of the food, but because of the intervention of the HCl, the food is unable to decay in the stomach. So that is the first thing that happens in the stomach. And then in the gastric juice, we also have some other enzymes that are secreted in the stomach, which helps to break down food. One of those enzymes, we have pepsin. Pepsin is a protease. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme, a protease. It basically on proteins. So the pepsin converts whatever is found in the food sample into polypeptides. That is what the pepsin does. So let me put that enzymatic reaction here. Proteins converted by pepsin to polypeptides. That is what that particular reaction is about. And then the second one is renin. We have the second reaction there called renin. Renin is another enzyme that acts on milk. Now, renin acts only on milk. It curdles milk. It converts milk. When it curdles milk, it turns it to curd. That is basically what it does. So it acts on this particular enzyme, renin. It acts on soluble proteins. It acts on carcinogen and converts them into what we refer to as insoluble casein. So, soluble proteins, okay, let me put it this way. Soluble proteins, which are carcinogens, is converted by renin into insoluble casein. That is what that reaction is about. Renin converts soluble protein, which is a carcinogen, into insoluble casein. And then when that conversion is done, we now have the action of pepsin. Remember that we said that the renin curdles milk. Milk is an example of a major source of protein. So since it is a protein, pepsin will then come to act on it when it has been converted or curdled by renin into insoluble casein. Then pepsin comes to act on it, converting it from the protein to the polypeptide. That is what happens in the stomach. And after this is done, then it is moved into the small intestine. There is going to be a sphincter that holds all of this happening in the stomach, preventing them from moving into the small intestine. And when all of these things are completely done, then the sphincter expands, relaxes, and then permits all of this to move into the duodenum. And so we move into what happens in the duodenum. The small intestine, like we said earlier on, has three parts. We have the duodenum, the jejunum, and then the ileum. So we are moving into the first part of the small intestine, which is the duodenum. So what happens in the duodenum? Let us see. The small intestine, which is the duodenum. Now, in that part of the small intestine called the duodenum, we have the action of some enzymes. Now, before these enzymes will come into working, remember that we have the action of gastric gland secreting gastric juice, and it has converted the food into an acidic medium. The food that was originally made alkaline by saliva was converted by the HCl in the gastric juice into an acidic medium. Now, the pancreatic enzymes that will be secreted in the duodenum will not be able to act on the food because they cannot act on acidic substances. Hence, there is the need for these food substances to be converted into the alkaline form. Now, the conversion of this is brought about by the production of what we refer to as the bile. Bile is an alkaline substance, a sodium salt that is produced in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. It is a greenish yellow substance. Now, it has three major functions. One of the functions of the bile is to change the form of the substance that is coming from the stomach. So, number one, it helps to neutralize the acid of the food substance that is coming from the stomach. Let's not forget, when the food is originally digested or halfway digested in the stomach, the food changes from being the solid form of food that we ate or swallowed into a semi-paste, a semi-liquid, and it is called chyme. It is called chyme. So we have the chyme coming from the stomach. So when the chyme arrives in the duodenum, that is when the action of bile comes in. So I said that the bile which has a greenish yellow color is produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. So the function of the bile now, there are majorly three in number. The first function is the fact that bile is very, very high in water concentration. Bile has large water concentration, and so it helps to neutralize the content of water, the amount of water that we have in the chyme that is coming from the stomach. Like I said, the food substance that has been degraded in the stomach is already in a semi-liquid, so it is called a chyme. Now that chyme is more liquefied. The water concentration coming from the bile is added into the chyme and it turns it into a more liquid or jelly-like paste. So that is the first function of the bile. It has high water content added to the chyme. So this makes the chyme to be more liquid in form. And then number two, we have the bile salt. Remember we said it is a sodium salt, it is a sodium substance, so it is alkaline in nature. So it helps to convert the hydrochloric acid, it helps to convert the acidic form of the chyme into an alkaline form, so that the enzymes that we'll be talking about, the pancreatic enzymes or the digestive enzymes, will be able to act on them. Because these digestive enzymes, they cannot act on acidic substances. They are only permitted to act on alkaline substances, but because the food has originally been converted from the alkaline nature, which was brought about by the action of the saliva, it has been converted by the HCl into an acidic medium. Now, the substances which are the pancreatic enzymes cannot act on them in that form, and that is the reason why the bile is going to come in to convert it back into the alkaline form to make it easier for the digestive enzymes to act on them. So that is the number two function of the bile. Number two, it neutralizes the acidic nature of the chyme. That is number two. And then number three is the fact that it helps to break down fat. It breaks down or emulsifies fat. It helps to break down fat. That is the number three function of the bile. So number one, the water content of the bile is used in making the chyme more liquid in form. And number two is that it neutralizes the nature of the chyme coming from the stomach, which is acidic, so it turns it back to alkaline form to make it easier for the digestive enzymes or the pancreatic enzymes to act on them. And thirdly, we have the bile emulsifying fat or breaking down fat. After this has been done, then we have the action of the three major digestive enzymes produced in the duodenum. They are called pancreatic enzymes. So let's put them this way. Digestive enzymes. Number one, we have what is called the amylose, or they are also called amylase. Amylases, amylose or amylases. The first one is a maltase. A maltase. What does a maltase do? A maltase helps to convert maltose. It converts maltose to two molecules of glucose. It converts maltose to two molecules of glucose. Glucose plus glucose. That is what a maltase does. And then we have the second one, which is called the lactase. Lactase. Lactase acts on lactose. Lactase acts on lactose. It converts lactose to glucose plus galactose. That is what a lactase does. It acts on lactose, converting it to glucose plus galactose. And then we have the third one, which is a sucrase. Sucrase is the third one, and what does it do? It converts sucrose to what we refer to as Sucrase converts sucrose to glucose plus fructose. So those are the three digestive enzymes or pancreatic enzymes that act on carbohydrates. All of these three, they all act on carbohydrates. They all act on carbohydrates. Number 1, number 2, number 3. They all act on carbohydrates. And then we have the second group of enzymes. This one is number 1, which acts on carbohydrates. Number 2, proteases. Yes, an example of a protease, we have the trypsin that converts proteins to polypeptides. Trypsin converts proteins to polypeptides. And then we have the third one, which is the lipase. The lipases act on fats and oils, converting them to what we refer to as fatty acid or glycerol. That is what it converts them to. So these are the degradative forms of these three major food classes. For the carbohydrates, we have them degraded to glucose, galactose, and then fructose. The protein, we have them degraded to polypeptides, and then the lipases are degraded to fatty acid. Now, in the ileum, we can have some intestinal juice that further act on some of these food samples. Like we'll be having some that will act on the polypeptides. Example, we'll be having polypeptides now. Polypeptides acted upon by irisin, converting it to amino acid. So these are the end products of these major food samples. And then all of these bring the food changing from chyme to what we refer to as chyle. By the time the food is degraded from the small intestine, it becomes what we refer to as chyle. So it is in the small intestine that we have the end of the degradation of food or the digestion of food. So it is in the small intestine that we have the last phase of digestion. It is also in the small intestine that we have what is going to be discussed next. Now, when food has been digested in the small intestine, we now have absorption taking place. What is absorption? Absorption is basically the use of nutrients by the body. When the body's nutrient, the nutrient generated from the food is actually taken into the bloodstream, so that the blood, which is a major transport medium in the body, can help to transfer this material or this nutrient to organs of the body that are actually in need of these nutrients. That is basically what assimilation or absorption is. So let us quickly talk about that. Absorption of food nutrients. Now, in the small intestine are some tiny finger-like structures called the villas. These structures, they are very, very tiny, sometimes very, very impossible to see what the major substance of the structure is, which is actually the pore. Every of these villi has a pore, a hole through which nutrient is being absorbed from the small intestine into the bloodstream. Let me try to put this in a diagram. We have the structure looking like this. This place here is the pore. and the pore helps to absorb or to extract nutrients out of the small intestine into the walls of the surrounding wall of the intestine. Now let us assume that this is the small intestine, and in the small intestine we have all of this lining the wall of the small intestine, such that we have something like this. Something like this, and here now we have openings here. Such that we can now have materials inside the small intestine here. All of the contents of the small intestine is now filtered. We now have nutrients from the end product of digestion that is inside the small intestine is being filtered out through the pores of these villas. Now, each of the pore permits nutrients, only the nutrient, to filter out through the hole or the pore of the villas into the surrounding environment, this place here, which is actually the blood stream. Inside this place is the small intestine, and here the surrounding environment is the blood stream. So we now have the nutrient from inside the small intestine filtered out into the bloodstream, and then the blood takes them to the surrounding organs that are deficient of these nutrients, and it helps to replenish the nutrients in those organs. And now, whatever is left inside this place here is what's referred to as the residue, the waste of digestion. And all of this waste is then pushed into the large intestine, which is also called the colon. And then we have the substances taken into the rectum. And by the time all of these indigestible fibers, when they get into the rectum helps to shaping them into pellets, and then they are passed out of the body as waste materials. So basically that is what digestion is about, and those are the phases of digestion, talking about the processes of digestion, the organs that take part in digestion, and then the major enzymatic reactions of digestion. So this is as far as we can go on this topic. Try as much as possible to go through this topic again, try to understand it, and perhaps you have any question, please don't hesitate to send them to us in the comment section. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please try to do so. Subscribe to it, and please click on the notification button so you get easily notified whenever we upload new content. Try as much as possible to like our content and share them as well. Thank you very much, and God bless.